Good day, everyone. We are happy to have you join us on yet another episode of the Yaba Voice webinar. We are glad it's time we call and you respond to our call. Thank you so very much for being on this call with us again this afternoon. Today promises to be really exciting. Please, I don't want us to start. If there is a parent, if there is a guardian, if there is a school, if there's an organization, an NGO that needs to listen to this, please send a reminder to them as soon as possible. They all need to be here because today is really, really loaded. And you would agree with me, there is no better time to talk about the conversation this afternoon. Oh, before I run off, the medical director and the arrowhead of the Yaba Voice, Dr. Olubenga Adekile Owoye, is ready to welcome us to this webinar. Over to you, the medical director, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kemi Akitoyesi. We really appreciate you for your good work. Good afternoon, everyone. I warmly welcome you to this month's edition of webinar by Yaba Voice. As you all know, Yaba Voice is a platform for mental health education, advocacy, and community outreach. It is a social media platform of Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Yaba, Lagos, through which the hospital creates awareness and educate the populace on topical mental health issues. Today's topic is the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth, a priority. The psychological well-being of adolescents and youth, a priority. Ladies and gentlemen, as we are all aware, according to the WHO, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of diseases and infirmity. Meaning that health is maintained on the aforementioned tripod stand: physical health, mental health, and social health. Therefore, no health without mental health. The mental health or the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth is important for their educational attainment, productivity, and the development of the country. In today's webinar, there are many questions to be addressed. For instance, what do we understand by the psychological well-being, and how does it apply to the adolescents and youth? How important is the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth? What are the determinants of the psychological well-being of this group of people? What are the common psychological disturbances you see in them, and how do we recognize and tackle them? Then finally, how do we promote a very sound psychological well-being among adolescents and the youth? To address this issue on the platform today, I have two erudite scholars and mental health clinicians. The first is Dr. Abiola Bello-Majid, who is a consultant psychiatrist special grade 1 with special interest in child and adolescent psychiatry. She is a fellow of both the West African College of Physicians and National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria. She has master's degree in public health and child and adolescent mental health. She is a public speaker, an institute mental health advocate, a renowned scholar, an international researcher, and a savvy university lecturer. She is also an educational director, a director and a member of board of trustees of the Association of Families and Professionals for Autism Support, and an advisory board member of Arts in Medicine, Tender Arts in Nigeria. She is a seasoned local and international resource person with a vast number of research publications in peer-reviewed journals. I want to also let you know that apart from being widely published on topics ranging from child and adolescent mental health, developmental problems in children, community mental health, school mental health, emotional problems, and other mental health conditions. In addition to those things, okay, Dr. Bello Majid too has worked with children, adolescents, and youth with mental health challenges. So she's actively involved in the delivery of quality patient care and training of resident doctors and non-specialists, including teachers and school leaders. She's a beautiful daughter, a beautiful wife, and a very responsive mother. Our second elder scholar on the platform today is Dr. Ariyo Osajato Joy. Dr. Joy is a principal clinical psychologist and head of the clinical psychology unit of the Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital, Benin City. Dr. Ariyo has PhD in clinical psychology and is an ICAP 1 certified addiction professional. She is a master trainer of the Universal Treatment Curriculum, UTC, and a trainer for treatment. She's a member of the Nigerian Association of Clinical Psychologists, Nigeria Psychological Association, American Psychological Association, and International Substance Abuse Use Professionals Association. She is the current vice chairperson of National Association of Clinical Psychologists in Edo State. She has special interest in psychological aspects of romantic relationship, psychosexual aspect of mental illness, and the interface between mental illness, female reproduction, and quality of life, as well as effective treatment modalities in addiction treatments. She is a public speaker and a mental health advocate. This morning is actually loaded, and the scholars in the house are ready to provide all the necessary information that will keep our adolescents and youth in good psychological well-being. I want to kindly implore you to relax and listen to our mental health expert as we promise you a rewarding session of today's webinar. Over to you, Dr. Kemi Akitoyeshi.
Thank you so very much, the medical director, for that arousing welcome. You know, the NDA had started this conversation for us by telling us what to expect and, you know, looking at some definitions when we talked about psychological well-being and mental health. Now, we don't have much time. Our speakers are loaded. I can tell you they are really, really loaded. And so we are looking once again at the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth, a priority. And like I said earlier, there is no better time to talk about this conversation than now, especially with all that is happening in our world. Gone are the days when adolescents or youth are assumed not to know anything. They combat quite a lot of things, even in their own space. Dr. Bonjidi.
Good day, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Akintoyeshe. So I said earlier on, we are addressing a very vital topic that is vital to everyone. That is, we are talking about the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth, a priority. First, what do we understand by that stage, adolescents or youth? Essentially, we are looking at critical stages, that is, transition phase between being a child and an adult. And this phase is notable with specific growth and development. And usually when we look at the age ranges, we talk about adolescents to be between 10 to 19 years, according to World Health Organization definition. And we look at youth, we say, okay, 10 years to 24 years. So invariably, for both groups, we are talking about a very important transitional phase between childhood and adulthood. So youth 15 to 24, adolescents 10 to 19. So invariably, we are looking at between 10 to 24 years thereabouts. And that stage, adolescent or youth, is a unique and formative time in the life of any individual because we have significant physical, emotional, and social changes during this phase. And these adolescents are those critical periods. They face a number of stressors, including academic pressure, peer relationship, identity, and all that. And that will influence our talking about psychological well-being, which is an important component of mental health. Simply, psychological well-being refers to positive emotional and personal growth. That is, subjective experiences of positive emotions, participation of those adolescents in activities, looking at the positive relationship. What are the sense of purpose in life? What are the personal development? And this concept is based on the idea that adolescents or individuals generally experience happiness when they have a sense of purpose in life, because they are meant to encounter challenges and undergo personal growth. And this concept is mainly linked to healthy behavior. And there are a number of research findings that have shown that when we have good psychological well-being, it's usually associated with better physical outcome and a lower rate of mental health problems, which are usually common during adolescence. In fact, for quite a number of them, the mental health challenges will start during that stage. So what are these dimensions that we want to talk about when we say psychological well-being? The environmental mastery, the personal growth, purpose in life, autonomy, self-acceptance, and positive relationship. Simply, when we talked about environmental mastery, we want to see, do they have competence? Do they feel competent in managing series of everyday life challenges and activities? Can they take advantage of new opportunities that will come their way? Can they organize their lives and work at home, at school, and different situations to match the needs and the value? In terms of the personal growth, do they see themselves as growing and improving over time? As they are growing physically, psychologically, are they also improving over time, such that they're able to realize their maximal potential? Are they open to new experiences? Because as they're growing, new environment, new stages, they are meant to have new experiences. The aspects of the purpose in life, every individual, especially the adolescent, is going to have specific goals for their lives, and they should have a sense of direction, not that they're just walking without a direction or a goal. And this will help them to have beliefs and support, as well as a sense of purpose in their life and life generally. The other dimension is autonomy, which simply means, are they dependent? Do they see themselves to be different from others, their parents and other peers? Are they self-motivated? Are they able to work according to their own specified standard? Or are they working on other people's standard? You know, because there'll be a lot of social pressures. And if they don't have their own standard, if they are not independent and different from others, then it will be difficult for them to have this sense of quality psychological well-being. Self-acceptance is another dimension. Are they able to feel good about who they are? Are they accepting their strengths and weaknesses? Are they working on their weaknesses? Are they accepting their strengths? Are they using the weaknesses improvement to become a better person, because they are meant to have experiences and they will have another level by the time they are able to improve on it. And they're meant to have to feel positive about their life. The positive relationship, as they're growing up, they are mixing with their peers and different individuals in the environment. Are they able to form warm and trusting relationships that are healthy, that will help them to show empathy? As they are relating, they are also reciprocating affection. They are having intimacy. They are understanding that life is not just about giving. As they are giving, they are taking. And they learn a lot from the relationship. These essentially are the dimensions, the main dimensions of psychological well-being in adolescents. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. You know, as she was talking, I was trying to do a bit of reflection to see was I going through all of these things at this age? You know, six dimensions. The first one is environmental mastery, personal growth, openness to new experience, purpose in life, autonomy, and self-acceptance. And these dimensions contribute so much to who an individual eventually become and how well they are able to. So please keep this in the back of the mind because we are going to be looking at all of those dimensions to see how it now affects them. And Dr. Ariyo would be telling us now what are the factors that now affect the psychological well-being of adolescents. Let's look at the factors that affect the psychological well-being of adolescents. Over to you, Dr. Ariyo. Dr. Ariyo?
So, can you hear me now?
All right, yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead. Thank you.
So I've been having a lot of technical issues. Sorry about that. I guess my network is really bad. So if I cut off at any time, please bear with me. All right, thank you so much for having me. Yes, there are multiple factors that can affect the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth. And the more of these risk factors that they experience, the more the impact in their, mental health. And some of these risk factors can include peer pressure. I like to give the example of our current society where you see 13, 14-year-olds already getting into what we call internet fraud, what we popularly call Yahoo. And when you talk to them, what you will hear is, oh, my friend bought Benz. My friend has a house, my friend has this. And you're wondering, what does a 13-year-old want to do with such a big car and a house? At that age, you expect that, okay, you are still being taken care of by your parents, but these people are experiencing this pressure. So that can sometimes be a factor that can affect an adolescent or a youth's psychological well-being. Another factor can be exposure to adversity, what we call major life events, maybe like sexual assault, domestic violence, if these youths experience such, it's possible that they would experience distress in their psychological well-being. Then we also know that adolescent stage is a stage of exploring your identity. Who are you? Who am I? What am I doing here? What's my purpose? We call it adolescent crisis, So sometimes in that phase, in trying to explore who the person is and what their plans are and what they want to achieve in life, it can cause some form of distress. Another very major one in our current climate is social media. People log on online, Instagram, Facebook, and you see a lot of people seemingly doing well, doing better than you. And then begin to cause you distress because you are wondering, oh, why am I like this? And why am I not achieving as much as others are achieving and so forth? Even though it has been shown over time that some of the things that we see on social media is not always true, but most of these adolescents and youth do not know that. So they compare themselves with others and then they cause themselves distress. Another factor that can cause distress is failure at school. We're in a education system where you have to compare yourself with another. And then when you're suddenly not doing well, it can cause problems for the person. Parenting style. Some parents have their style of raising children. We grew up with parents, shouting and telling us what to do, and we obey like soldiers. But if you listen and hear youth talk nowadays, you realize that the world is changing, the style is changing, and then the style that worked probably for us, our parents, doesn't seem to work anymore for the this current generation. So sometimes parenting style, how parents raise these children, how they talk, how they communicate can be an issue. And then stigma. I will take an example from adolescents and youth who probably has gone into substance use. And then maybe they're trying to come out of it and they are now stigmatized, or adolescents or youth who have maybe a mental health condition, or maybe who have even been assaulted sexually or physically, and then they are stigmatized. by others, that can be a source of distress. And then the last I would like to talk about is bullying. We see that happen a lot in school. And these adolescents, most of them are still school age and they're in school. And you see that they might come back home with one stress or the other from school, and probably the interest and the desire to learn will not be there anymore. That in itself can also be a factor that can cause psychological distress and then affect an individual's well-being. There are much, but I would like to stop here. But I would just say is most of the time what we need to understand is that these factors can come in different ways and in different forms. And it's important that we recognize them, because recognizing them determines how we are able to deal with them in the life of the individual concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Joy Ariyo. I recognize the efforts that you have made to join us this afternoon. We hope that we'll be able to pull through despite the challenges that we had earlier. And one of the things that I hear us say loud and clear is parenting style. And honestly, it's changing. They shouted at us, they beat us, anything that is there, they beat us with it. But you dare not do it with children in these days now. There was a day I didn't shout, if I shouted like my mom shouted, and the boy came and said, you want to damage my self-esteem? And I was like, excuse me, where are we coming from? But that's the reality of what we are facing now. That's the reality. It's changing. You can't, hey, they shouted, oh, hey, they shouted at us, because they would even shout. You would not know the direction you should take again. You would just take any way, just do anything. But the times are changing. Please note that you can send in your comments and your questions on the chat box, and then we'll be able to take them after the presentation. Now, Dr. Bello Mojido will be telling us, yes, Dr. Ariyo had highlighted for us the factors that might affect the psychological well-being of adolescents and youth. Now, what are the common psychological distress or condition or problems that are associated with adolescents, and this particular age? What are those common psychological problems that we can see with them?
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye. Like we said earlier on, this stage, it's really a very critical period because of specific challenges and specific changes ongoing as a transitional phase. So we have varieties of psychological problems, but essentially we look at those ones that are common among the adolescents and youths. The commonest of the psychological problems are emotional problems, specifically depression and anxiety. Depression, anxiety don't go singly. They usually go hand in hand. So when we talk about depression, it's as common as, it's more than 1 in 10, but we could have about 1 out of every 10 adolescents or youth having depression, major depressive episode. When we say major, that means that it's to the extent that they will have to be treated. So the major depressive episode, about 11% of adolescents will have that. And when we talked about that, some of the things or some of the features we'll see include sadness, undue irritability, loss of interest in typically or things that are usually pleasurable or activities. They may start to have altered sleep pattern, appetite may change, and they may have quite a number, low energy level. When they are walking is slower, and it impacts on their academics and many things. When we talked about anxiety, they may be unduly fearful, they may be having high heart rate, palpitations, sweaty hands, and all that. And all these will affect their functioning, including school attendance, functioning at home, school work, and overall academic performance. Also common is substance abuse and other high-risk behavior like increased sexual behaviors. And substance abuse or sexual risk-taking usually starts during adolescence, and it is really unhelpful, and it impacts on their psychological well-being. They may have significantly a lot of difficulties that will impact on their psychological well-being. They may take Indian hemp, cannabis, and it may also lead to criminality. There is also another one, which is a behavioral disorders or behavioral problems. This is commoner in younger adolescents, and it includes attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, where the adolescent is unduly hyperactive or restless, or finding it difficult to stay calm or be at the point when calmness is actually required, or they have impaired attention, they are not able to pay attention to schoolwork or tasks requiring attention. They may have impulsivity, they may act before thinking, and they're usually subject to a lot of injury, accidents, and many. Conduct disorder is also commoner in early adolescent stage, and they are always in trouble, and they are labeled, and they receive lots of punishment, lot of beatings, and all that. It is one noting that we also have some other common conditions that we don't usually pay attention to, including eating disorders, and they usually have abnormal eating pattern. They may binge eat, they may have some purging behavior. After eating, they induce purging, and they are preoccupied with the weight or shape or the body shape and all symptoms of eating disorders, because they just want to have particular shape. And this will also be linked to another one, which is body image issue. They are usually unhappy with their body. You know, the era of like Pashandi and all that, everybody just wants to be aesthetic or to be, you know, tiny looking and all that. And anybody that is well fed is taken to be horrible. And everybody or any adolescent with those kind of comment, they usually get unhappy, and it usually gives them low self-esteem, and they may also develop real eating disorders combined with the body image, and it will impact negatively on the psychological well-being as well as functioning. Stress is another thing that is very common, is a psychological problem. As they are moving from one state to another, they are more prone to stressful conditions, because the task expected at higher level is higher than the way it was when they were children and all that. And it's some of the things that usually found, for example, when they're moving from primary school to secondary school, there is increased academic pressure, social demands, family expectation, peer pressure, and all these stressful conditions will lead to being overwhelmed, and they may also develop simultaneously other emotional problems like depression. Low self-esteem is also a common psychological problem. It's been mentioned in the course of this discussion. Identity formation issue is also common. They fail to develop a sense of who are they, who am I, and they may get confusion. They start to doubt whom they are. They start to compare themselves socially, and this is usually associated with a lot of mental health problems. That is major mental health problem like depression and anxiety. Psychosis is another one. That is, they have major problem with their thought system, the way they're thinking, their belief system. They may be out of touch with reality testing. They may not be able to participate in daily activities because these usually impair their functioning, and it also negatively impacts education. They may be out of school, they are stigmatized, nobody wants to stay with them, they are labeled, colo mental and all that. And it leads to significant stigma and human rights violation. They are beaten because they feel that they're just hurt, and maybe there is an offense or something in the family and all that. Self-harm and suicide is also common. And in fact, it is on the increase, especially with the current pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. And usually when we talked about depression and anxiety or any mental health problem, usually by the time it gets severe, for example, when depression is severe, we may start to have the very severe end of the manifestations, like feeling hopeless, feeling worthless, start to feel guilty and start to accuse self for things that are not voluntarily done or under the control of the adolescent. And people will start to attack, and they may feel fed up with life and they just want to end it all. So suicide is a major problem in adolescents and youth. These are some of the common psychological problems that have been found in adolescents and youth. Thank you.
honestly, I'm about to take a deep breath, but you can't just see me taking the deep breath because, I was like, excuse me, why this long list? Is it, excuse me? Come on. Life is meant to be enjoyed. But we are saying that this adolescent can actually go through a whole lot of those things. Now, ranging from self-harm, suicide, ideation, and all those things like that. You're carrying out the acts. Now, you talk about anxiety, depression. Now, substance is a it's even an area that we don't want to talk about in this platform now at this moment because it would derail us from the focus of this conversation this afternoon. Now, it's a whole lot, a whole lot. And the problems are just too many. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking about this. Because if we do not understand it, then excuse me, how do we deal with it? So we need to be able to come to terms with the fact that these problems are about, these problems are there, and then we would be able to now provide solutions. Awareness bring action. You're able to come to a place where you're able to do the things that you need to do. And that is the major aim of this webinar this afternoon. Not just looking at the problems, but how do we move on from there? But before we get to the solution, Dr. Ario, now what are the signs that anybody would see and know that, excuse me, there is a problem with this individual? We're talking about the signs of psychological distress in an adolescent. So parents, caregivers, school proprietors, administrators who are on this platform will be able to identify and say, yes, oh, they said this in the Yaba Voice webinar. I noticed this, and then they'll be able to take prompt action. Over to you, Dr. Ario.
Thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye. I hope you can hear me. Psychological distress can manifest in a lot of ways, and some among them are moodiness. Sometimes you just see an adolescent, 1 minute they are happy, the next minute they are sad. There's really no explanation as to why the mood swings. That can be a signal that something is going on. And it's very important that especially parents and teachers take note of these changes. And I also say that these signs I'm going to list, please note that they should be a deviation from the person's usual self. Okay? So it's not like, oh, this person we've always known this person as a moody person. No. Maybe the person is able to regulate their emotions before now, and suddenly they are unable to. They are moody at one, they are sad at one point, they are happy at other points without apparent reasons. Something might be going on there. And then you find irritability. And this list, this to list cuts across most of these disorders that Dr. Bello Mojid has talked about. So there are telltale signs that something is wrong and something should be done about it. Irritability, easily prone to anger, especially when the person is usually not that kind of person, and suddenly any little thing that they are told or they are sent, there's an anger outburst. That is a signal that something might be going on. And then avoidance of social situations. They don't want to interact with people anymore. They want to be alone. They isolate. They don't want to talk to anybody. I know that sometimes this particular sign can be tricky, especially in this age where you find a lot of youths, adolescents, always engrossed in their phone. They rather to communicate to people through phones than have face-to-face interaction. But the key I would say you should note is that if this is not the person's usual style, and suddenly they are isolating themselves, ask questions, try to seek what's going on with them. And then you suddenly start experiencing fear. Fear to go out, fear to stay in, fear to go to school, fear to stay in school, fear of a particular person, fear of a particular event, it can be a pointer. Then I've talked about sadness and low mood, palpitations. They tell you, my heart is just beating. As it's beating so fast, I can feel my chest. Sometimes adolescents, that's the best way they can tell you that something is going on. And if you don't pay attention, you will know. And then you can also see that some of them will experience drop in school performance, essentially a drastic drop in school performance. So they've been doing well in school before now, they love school, and suddenly, things are changing. They're not able to maintain the position they've been before now in school. That can be a pointer that something is going on that we need to look at. Then physical complaints. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I have neck pain. Oh, my chest. Oh, my stomach. I had a patient some time back. Her feet was just my stomach, my stomach. Every morning she wakes up, she says my stomach. Unknown to the mother that somebody was bullying her in school and she was using my stomach to, as an excuse not to go to school. But the mother always found a way to ensure that she goes to school. And then it was getting worse until she sought help. So we can have those physical signs that do not really have any explanation. They can be signs that this person is experiencing distress. Then feelings of hopelessness. Dr. Bello Moji talked about this when she was mentioning depression, helplessness, hopelessness. They just like, oh, maybe probably dying would be the best. When you begin to see that in adolescents, it's time for them to seek help. Then it's possible that they also have dizziness, dizzy spells, what people would describe as maybe a blackout or a spinning of the eyes or something. That can be an indication that something is going on with this person. And then they can have sleep problems. They used to sleep very well. They sleep appropriate. The sleep used to be appropriate, but now they don't sleep enough or they are sleeping too much. So when for parents listening, if you have a child at home who is either beginning to sleep too much or by 3 a.m. they are awake and says, oh, mommy, daddy, I can't sleep. Please, it's time to pay attention to them. Something might be going on. And also eating. They might begin to either eat too much or eat too little. Sometimes this can be signs that it's time for this child to seek help. And it's important that parents, teachers, caregivers know these signs so that when you see them, it's time for you to ask questions, and then it's time for you to help the children or the adolescent or the youth seek the help that they need. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And what Dr. Ario had told us this afternoon is very germane to this conversation, because when you know the signs, you will be able to take prompt action. It's not just about, sometimes we tend to ignore the signs and then we keep shouting, oh, you're not doing well. Why are you locking up yourself? Why are you doing this? Why are you not eating? Why are you moody? And it tends to escalate the problem because the child is asking, nobody understands me. Nobody really knows what I'm going through. And that's also that compounds the problem. So it's important that we become more aware of those signs so that we can be able to take prompt action. Thank you, Dr. Ario, once again. And Dr. Bello Mojid is going to talk to us on the psychological factors that we can use to strengthen and promote wellness in our adolescents, especially with all that is around us. What are those psychological factors that we can use to strengthen wellness in the adolescent? Over to you, Dr. Bello Mochi.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Akintoye. When we talked about psychological well-being for adolescents, it is important to note that this is one of the positive aspects of ensuring we have a better outcome, health outcome, positive living, compared with when we usually talked about psychological problems, psychiatric problems, mental disorders, and all that. So we will look at quite a number of things that could be put in place from the aspect of the adolescent as well as the society, because invariably we are looking at those aspects of the dimension, things that could be worked on. First is the aspect of education. Generally, when we talked about physical aspects of our health or of our being, it's something that is acceptable. People usually go to see the doctors, they know they have headache. So it becomes imperative that the adolescent need to learn about other signs and symptoms, including paying attention to physical signs, like Dr. Joy talked about the headache. Having headache, it's okay, but when it is persistent, and we're not having flavor of fatigue, stomach ache, the adolescent need to observe all that and see how it is affecting the functioning, as well as the ability to actually enjoy the subjective happiness or positive feeling. Then they should also be able to keep mood journals, to keep their mood, their thoughts, just the way they have their diary for other events around them. They should be able to keep records of how their moods are. What variations do they have? How are their thought system? What are the kind of thoughts coming to mind? The emotions. Is he always irritable? Is he happy? Is he fluctuating throughout the day? So they should be able to pay attention to it as well as keep journal. The other aspect is connection. You know, the pandemic has taught us more than ever before that human relationship and having to connect with ourselves is a significant aspect of what makes a human being to be an higher animal. For example, the adolescent need to know that they should make time for significant people in their lives, including their peers, their siblings, their family. They should be able to form positive relationship with their friends. If there are issues, they should be able to know how to amicably sort it out. And as well as having a sense of belonging. They should be active in school activities, sporting activities, community programs. They should be able to volunteer and also make phone calls when they are not able to be with the young ones. Then the aspect of being active, such as having regular exercises, which will reduce rate of many mental health challenges, and it will reduce the vulnerability to emotional problems like depression. So it will also help them to reduce stress, even during exam. And as they're doing that, they should also learn that learning is an ongoing thing. They should continue to learn and relearn many things in the environment. The stage of adolescence is such that they are meant to learn new skills that will make them adapt to different challenges of life, that will also help them in their social development, their cognitive development, emotional development. The other aspect of that is also that they need to pay attention to the biological component of what they take in forms of the nutrients, balanced diet, adequate sleep. Because those balanced diets, especially when they're having fruits, vegetables, and all that, will ensure that the brain has the required nutrients required for development. It is also cool and rewarding for them to know that they should be able to give out and also appreciate others. And it will help them to know that as they're giving out is a form of kindness. And they're also able to experience empathy as they're giving to people, they're seeing the value those people are having. It's promoting psychological well-being in them as well. Then the aspect of the coping skill is a very important aspect of what they need to learn. They need to learn how to deal with stress and difficult situations. They may put in relaxation exercises, mindfulness to ensure that they're able to relax. Also important is the aspect of the lifestyle. It's another aspect of things that they need to pay attention to, like we talked about, that it will help to improve their mood and all that. And self-care is also key. They have to ensure that they do things that will make them happy. It is okay for them to take care of themselves. It's not selfish interest. They should enjoy music, they should read, they should spend time with their family and friends. And very importantly, they should learn to seek professional help. We talked about that stage of adolescence is such that different challenges will come. And it is how they are able to come out of it that will determine if they're having mental health problems or not. So when they experience any form of deviation from the mental functioning or psychological well-being, it may imply that they're having mental health issues. So it is okay for them to seek help from professionals. This professional will help them provide the kind of environment that is safe for them to express their feelings, as well as creating the appropriate network for treating underlying health conditions or identifying vulnerabilities that they may need to work on. So putting all this together, it will strengthen the psychological well-being of an adolescent. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bello Majid. somebody has sent in a question for you, and he's saying that in terms of overprotectiveness, shielding children and not allowing them to, go through the hard times like we went through. I'll come back to you on that. What's the implication on their emotional, psychological well-being now? Now, but then before we go to the questions and comments, please remember you can send in your question and your comments to the chat box. We'll be willing to read and also to answer these questions that you might have. Dr. Bello Moji had given us quite a lot in terms of the psychological factors that we can use to strengthen and help them. I know one thing I heard her say is teach them coping skills. A whole lot of these younger ones, this generation, seems not to have adequate coping skills to be able to deal with life challenges, to confront the so many difficulties. It's because maybe they are not prepared. And it's looking like they are really not prepared. They give up easily. They tend to get tired easily. And so most of them don't even want to do. They don't even want to do. And that's a very big problem because we had done a lot for them. And then we had shielded them so much from confronting and facing life. And that's a big challenge. Now, Dr. Ario, how can parents and guardians help adolescents in achieving a balanced psychological health? We are looking at balance now. Challenges are there. No, we understand. But how can we achieve a balance? Over to you, Dr. Ario.
Thank you so much, Ma. Yes, parents play a very vital role in ensuring that their children maintain a healthy mental health. I think one of the best places to start is giving the adolescent the love and attention they need to resolve their fears. I would talk about this in the light of we are in the working age. Daddy's working, mommy is working, and you see that children get to parent themselves. We give them gadgets, distract them from what is important and feel that they are just okay, they will be okay, And then when we get back from work, we're tired and they're trying to ask questions and we just say, oh, daddy says go meet mommy says go meet daddy. We really have to look into that when it comes to the structure of the family. You need to give them love. You need to give them attention. You need to answer their questions. I tell parents when I have the opportunity to sit in the class, if you don't answer their questions, someone else will give them the answer they are looking for. And that answer might not be what you want them to have or how you want them to have that information. So it's important that we take time to develop relationship with these children so that when they are confused about a situation or they are experiencing stress that can cause psychological distress, then they can talk to us. But if you don't create that atmosphere, you won't get that. And then most of the time, by the time the symptoms appear, it's too late. Parents are wondering, where did I go wrong? So give them the love and attention that they need. Then be open to communicate. Communicate. Anything you don't understand about them, ask questions. What's going on with you? Oh, your face was like this morning, or your uniform was like this morning. Anything, any pattern, changing their usual pattern of behavior that you notice. Ask questions. Don't just say, we're so used to, he's just been an adolescent. He would grow. He would get over it. Sometimes they are dealing with something they are unable to tell you. But when you sit them down and ask them questions and create that friendly atmosphere for communication, you might be able to say, oh, this is what's going on, this is what's going on. Because I've seen a lot of cases of assault where the children couldn't tell parents because the atmosphere for that conversation is not in that family. So by the time it's too late, parents say, where did I go wrong? You must set it right by creating the right atmosphere for communication. And then create a structure. Many times adolescents do what they want, and that's their stage. They want to do things their way and have their way in everything. But when you create a structure, maybe meal time, school time, play time, screen time, social media time, that's the gadget time, you realize that children are able to self-regulate. They are able to handle themselves better because they know what's to come next. Then when there is no structure, they do what they want and they have their way in whatever they want to do. And sometimes because adolescents do not really have a sense of consequences, so they might get into some habits thinking my mates are doing it because they don't have the sense of consequence. They don't know that that is dangerous. They don't know that that is going to lead to a psychological problem or distress. Especially when I've spoken to a lot of youths who got into substance abuse, and They tell you, oh, I didn't know my friend was using it and I too thought I would use it, because they have no sense of consequence. But when they have a structure, when they have what is expected of them in the family, because parents have taken the time to create that, they'll likely come ask questions. They'll likely come back to the family to say, oh, see what Peter or James is doing, and do you think I should do it? But when there is no structure, they live their life the way they want, and you really can't ask them questions. And most times, before you realize that something is wrong, it's almost always too late. And then I like to also buttress the fact that parents themselves need to be able to show example or model appropriate coping skills. If parents cope with distresses, with situations in a good way, children likely pick up those behaviors. But when parents cope with their own distress in a maladaptive way, children also pick it up. I'll give you an example. Parents who use alcohol to cope with distress, it shouldn't take much for the child to know, oh, when I start distressed, it's alcohol. So when they grow up and they understand that, okay, whenever you are stressed, just take alcohol. That's maladaptive, you know. If parents model, oh, substance use as their own coping mechanism, parents likely also, you know, follow suit. And parents may model aggressiveness as their coping mechanism, children also follow suit. So it's very important that parents should model good coping skills. And also, you can begin to integrate exercising, like Dr. Bello just said, take a walk. If they see you do the healthy coping skills, children will also almost always follow suit. So model it. And then it's also important that parents should learn to seek help. You know, sometimes we are parents and we can get so emotional about situations. So instead of being emotional and then escalating a particular situation with your child, when you know that this matter is more than you and you can't handle it, seek professional help. You can't be the therapist, be the mother, be the auntie, be the teacher, you know, especially for mothers. We do a lot. And most times we want to jump into solution giving, but it's also important that when you know your limits and you know I can't solve this, seek help from professionals, which is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ario, for the help. I hope that we would go away from this conversation today, being equipped with what to do and how to begin to also manage them. One of the things that I heard you say and I love so much is the fact that children can self-regulate. But a whole lot of times we don't teach them how to. And when you do not model the behavior, or you do not instruct them, then you would not be able to do that. Yes, for everyone who is here, we appreciate you. I just want to take some few comments and then we'll go to the question. Mabel, yes, awareness bring action. When you know, then you get into action. And then somebody said, Zessi said, when the basic need cannot be met, it is difficult to focus on coping skills on an empty stomach and financial hardship with no solution in sight. Honestly, it's a dilemma. But you know that we can also build resilience in children despite the difficulty. No, it really does. It's not about, I understand what you're saying. I understand that, yes, we need food, we need to be, but despite that, we still need to be able to channel strength into this so they can begin to master. Mastery becomes the goal here, and then create more power for them to be able to move on. Yes, Emanuela said parents should have time for their children despite their busy schedule. And I cannot agree less with you. The reality is we need to spend time with them. The schedules might be looking tighter and tighter, but excuse me, we need time with these children. Now, in a situation where the child is staying with a guardian who doesn't care, what can these children do to help them overcome any of these challenges? Okay, we'll come back to this question, but I want to quickly allow Dr. Bello Moji to answer the question that had been asked earlier, which is when parents overprotect, or let me not use the word overprotect, we want to just shield them. And so sometimes you see, you do not even allow them to make their mistake or learn from their mistake, or even allow them to go through this patches in life that normal people will go through and bounce up and get off from it. What is the implication on the child's well-being?
Being overprotective about an adolescent or youth, or any child in particular, is not healthy and usually has a negative impact. Many a time, those parents that are overprotective, they themselves have quite a number of anxiety-related issues. So they are usually anxious about their kids, every move they take, every step, they just want to be there. And it is always good to, if we have the child being an adolescent or a youth, they can be in conversation with the parents to calm them down and all that. And also be able, and the parent will need to learn boundaries. That is not just only children that we talk about boundary. There should be a boundary, because it is when they're having different experiences in life that they are able to also learn and have a mastery over many of the things that they are meant to be independent on. So, but we should also know that we have some very extreme conditions. For example, those individuals, be it adolescents or youth, that have maybe developmental conditions or severe mental health problems, we see that those children may be, the parents may be overprotective. And that may also bring in sibling rivalry. So in essence, we're saying that there has to be a clear boundary, and there should be communication with also the children. And the parents should be able to demonstrate that they are the parents and not children. Children are the ones that we're teaching quite a number of those things. So there should be a limit in terms of what are the parents expected to do. Even when we have those with major disabilities or developmental conditions or mental health issues, there should be a clear boundary, because they are meant to also learn and have some mastery, because we are trying to help those adolescents and youth to be as independent as possible, just like we are talking about the different dimensions of psychological well-being for the adolescent. We talked about environmental mastery, personal growth, purpose in life, autonomy, independence, and many other things like self-acceptance. When we have overprotectiveness, we are not likely to be able to achieve all this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bello Mojid. Dr. Ario, could you just answer that question of what are we doing? You're not living with your guardian. You're living with the guardian, sorry, who doesn't care? We'll take that as your final word. What would be your response to that? You're living with a guardian who doesn't care, who is not concerned about your welfare, who doesn't even care about your psychological well-being, neither physical. What do you do? How do you cope with that?
Thank you very much. I think I would say, by way of answering this question, a guardian should care. Yes, there are guardians who don't care, but now we are talking to parents. If you are a guardian, you should care, because that you are given responsibility of that adolescent or the youth. You have to care. So we shouldn't keep condoning that, oh, there are people who really don't care. Yes, there are, but we have to begin to change the narrative. You should care. And the reason why you should care is because if you also have children, because I've seen that happening with probably the person is living with you as a help, and you just say, oh, it's a business, I don't care. But he or she is helping you raise your little children. They are also beginning to model, maladaptive behavior to those children. So one way or the other, it comes back to us if we don't care. But in the event that you're in that situation and you have the guardian who doesn't care, and you are beginning to know, the adolescent is beginning to understand that, okay, something is wrong that I'm not so comfortable about. Talk to responsible adults. It's important that adolescents, youth have people around them who they can talk to. So if there's somebody around you that you can talk to, seek a counsel from them, ask them, what can I do about this situation? And then see what happens after that. But I will reiterate that if you are a guardian with somebody, don't take the person. Just let the person be wherever they want to be. It's better than bringing them under your roof and then do not care. We need to begin to change that narrative about our society. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Ario. And on this note, I want to say thank you to everyone again for being on this call. with us. In 30 seconds, Dr. Bello Mojid, what's your final words to us in 30 seconds?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, adolescents face quite a number of stress in life, and they have overriding factors that make them to be vulnerable. Enhancement of their positive and emotional and personal growth is linked to healthy behavior and better physical outcome. It also lower rates of mental health challenges and problems among them. So having to pay attention to this is a business of everyone. The adolescents should learn how to identify basic physical and mental changes in their being, and the parents should also be able to support them, and the professionals should be sought for help when needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bello Mojid. That was very jamming. Dr. Rio, your last word.
Okay. Parents have to model good coping mechanism to children. You can't overemphasize that. They live with you, they see what you do, and they see how you do it. So when you are not responding to psychological distress the right way, children also learn not to respond the right way. So parents model good and right coping skills around the children, and then things always would usually go well if we do that. So parents model good coping skills. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Rio. Jeremiah, thank you for your comments about boundary setting. It's very germane and that's very important. Dr. Sombe, thank you so very much. For everyone who had been on this call with us today, thank you so very much once again for being here. We love the fact that you join us each time that we call. Now, this is going to be our last webinar for the year. We will join you again by God's grace in January 2024. But until then, please, if you need to watch any of the past episodes of the different topics that we have done on these various webinars, please go over to the YouTube page of the Yaba Voice, FMPHY, one word, and then you would get past recordings as well as this on the YouTube page. If you have questions that you want us to answer, then again, we would be willing. Just send us a message on either the Instagram or the Facebook page, and then we would get back to you on all of your concerns and questions. Again, we'll be sending out some tips for coping with this period and also dealing with the current situations and how to also stay strong despite all that we are navigating as a nation. So please watch out for some of these tips and flyers and videos that will be coming from the stable of the Yaba Voice. Until we come your way again, on behalf of the medical director and the arrowhead of the Yaba Voice, Dr. Lubenga Adekile Owoye, and every member of the Yaba Voice team, I want to say thank you for being on this call with us once again. We say thank you to Dr. Bello Mojid. We say thank you to Dr. Joy Ario. Thank you to everyone again also for being on this call with us. We hope that you will keep being the best. And please don't forget that there is no health without mental health. So ensure that you keep your mental health safe and be safe out there. Until then, bye. And it's good to say Merry Christmas. You know, it's not too early to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.